Good morning, boys and girls. I hope that you're having a great day so far and that you had a good weekend. Today's video covers day 1 of packet number 4. So for packet number 4, at the end of each week, you're going to send me 2 assignments or activities from the packet that you think are your best work from each subject. So that'll be 2 things from reading, 2 things from writing, 2 things from math, and 2 things from content. So that'll be 8 assignments or activities that you're going to take pictures of and send to me so that I can give you feedback. And we're doing it at the end of every week so that we can kind of break up the packet and I can give you feedback on your work. Packet number 4 is going to have new information for content, which is social studies and science, and review information for reading, writing, and math. So to get started, like I said, it's packet number 4, day 1. We're going to look under day 1 in the language arts section to start. And it says, write the alphabet across the top of your paper. Using the alphabet you wrote, put the following words in ABC order using the first letter. So you're going to write the alphabet. You're going to do it the way that you did last week. So we're going to write the alphabet all the way to M on the first line, and then finish the alphabet starting with N on the second line. So that's how you will do the alphabet. A through M on the first line, N through Z on the second line. And then using the alphabet that you write, you're going to put these words in ABC order. The words you're going to put in ABC order are run, swim, down, up, fast, and last. Those are the words you're going to put in ABC order. Remember, we said when we are looking at putting words in ABC order, you are going to look at the first letter and then look at your alphabet. You're just going to go through the alphabet. A. Do any of these words start with A? If they don't, go to B. Any of those words start with B? Nope, so we keep going. C. What about D? I see a word that starts with D, so when I put words in ABC order, down would come first, because that D was the first one we ran into when we said the alphabet. So then you would keep going E, F, and then whatever word where you run into that first letter, the next one, you're going to write it under here. And then the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and this will be ABC order. So if you need help with this, there is a video that you can, and I'll share my screen really quickly. Right here, there's a link to a 3-minute video on how to alphabetize words. If you need help with this, you can absolutely watch. Even if you just want to watch it as review, that's perfectly fine. So the next part is a phonological awareness section. It says, save the following words out loud. Create a word that rhymes for each word below. Rhyming words can be real or nonsense. Some example responses are provided, but students can come up with others. This task is about sound, not spelling. Yep, so this is kind of like some of the things that we've done in class before. You need to come up with words that rhyme with yard, seed, rain, space, and wink. And you are just saying them out loud. So it says, say the following words out loud. Create a word that rhymes for each word below. So you're saying this out loud. You're not writing it down because look at the last sentence. This task is about sound, not spelling. So you're just going to say it. Remember, when we talk about rhyming words, those are words where the only sound that is different is the beginning sound. So if I wanted to rhyme a word to cat, it's going to have at. The middle and the end will be the same. It's only the first sound that will change. So if I want a word that rhymes with cat, I could say hat, mat, gnat, where I'm only changing that first sound. So you're going to do the same thing for yard, seed, rain, space, and wink. You can do nonsense words, which means it can be a word that's made up, but it has to still rhyme with that word. So I could, for yard, you could say pard, and that works. It rhymes with yard, but it is not a real word, but that's okay because it says that you're allowed to do that. So it gives you your examples for yard. The example words that rhyme with it would be guard, hard. So just that first sound is changing. So now it's your job to come up with different words that rhyme with yard, seed, rain, space, and wink. You need to come up with your own. They have to follow that rhyming pattern of just the first sound changing. Middle and ending of the word will be the same, just changing that first sound. So that'll be out loud. You're going to be saying that. For reading, it says, choose a fiction story and read together. Using the 5-finger retelling poster as a guide, ask your child to orally retell the story. So you're going to pick a fiction story of your choice and read it to your parent or adult. And then you're going to retell the story to the adult that you read the book with. So right here, I'm going to share my screen with you. This page toward the end of your packet is the 5-finger retelling. You're going to do this out loud after you read the story. You're going to retell the story to the adult that you read with. So you need to tell them the characters, the setting, problem, events, and solution. Now remember, the events are the big things that happen in the story, the important things. The characters we know are the people or animals in the story, the setting, where the story takes place, and when the story takes place. The problem is the thing that doesn't go as planned in the story. The events, I just said, are the important things, and the solution is how the problem gets solved. So that is how you're going to retell the story. You are going to read the fiction story with an adult, and then out loud, you're going to retell the story. After that, it says for our writing section today, after orally, that means out loud by talking, after orally rehearsing what the story was about, means by retelling the story by talking. Ask student to write to describe what happened in the story to demonstrate comprehension. So after you have retold the story out loud to an adult, you are going to write what happened in the story to show what you have learned. So it says, have student reread writing and edit for capitalization, spelling, and punctuation. So after you've retold the story out loud, you're going to write about what happened in the story. Use your 5-finger retelling to write down what happened in the story. And it says, and this is important, have student reread writing and edit for capitalization, spelling, and punctuation. I've started to give some feedback to students based on their work from Packet 3, and that's something that I've noticed, something that we can work on with our writing. Take your time and make sure that your capitalization, your uppercase and lowercase, spelling, and punctuation are correct. Spelling, take your time to stretch out the words and hear the sounds that are in them and think before you write. Don't just zoom through it and guess. Take the time to think about what you're writing and think about the sounds that you hear. We always need punctuation at the end of our sentences. It says optional. Watch the WHRO Learn to Grow segment from 1:15 to 1:30. practice what was talked about in today's segment. So this is listed in the beginning of the packet. There are several different TV stations that are going to be showing educational information from the Virginia Department of Education throughout the day. So one of the things that you can tune into, it says on WHRO, watch the Learn to Grow segment from 1:15 to 1:30 and practice what was talked about in today's segment. So that's just 15 minutes of quick practice. There's several different things that you can look and access by watching those segments on TV. So at the beginning of the packet, it lists out the stations that will be providing that daily content for students. Next, if we go to the math section, that's all for language arts today. And language arts is always going to be our reading, writing, our phonological awareness, those types of things. For math, it says, before I read the problem, let's do a practice. I almost just went right into the packet problem. So I'm going to say, I have 7 people I have 7 people at my kitchen table. I want to know how many feet I have without looking. Okay. This problem says, I have 7 people at my kitchen table. I want to know how many feet I have without looking. I think I have 13. Do you think I am correct? How do you know? So, and just like always, we're going to use pictures, numbers, and words to solve this problem. So what I'm going to do, you know, I love to draw pictures to help me solve problems. So if you're at the kitchen table, how many feet do each of us have? We have 2 feet. So that belongs to one person because every person has 2 feet. So there are 7 people. So I'm going to keep going. 2 people. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. And I know my problem says that I have 7 people. Each person has 2 feet. So I circled the number of feet that give me one person. So this is one person because each person has 2 feet. This is my second person, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and my 7th person. Now, it's asking how many feet there are in all. Their guess was 13. we need to say whether they were right. So now our job is to count each foot. So now all we have to do really is count by twos. We've already put them in groups of twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So were they correct? Their guess was 13. Nope, they were close, but they were not correct. So, do you think I am correct? No. How do you know? There were 14 feet at the That's my answer. I showed my work, so I showed my thinking, and then I wrote with words my answer. Do you think I am correct? No. How do you know? Because there were 14 feet at the kitchen table, and I showed how I came up with that answer. There you go. We use pictures, numbers, and words. So your problem is very similar to the one that we just did together. The problem that you have, and I'm going to share my screen. Is right here. I have 5 people at my kitchen table. I want to know how many feet I have without looking. I think I have 10. Do you think I am correct? How do you know? So I'll read it one more time. I have 5 people at my kitchen table. I want to know how many feet I have without looking. I think I have 10. Do you think I am correct? How do you know? Then it says, try doing this with your family at your table. See if you can figure out how many feet there are without looking. Record your answer with pictures, numbers, and words. That's how you're going to solve it, just like we did. Pictures, numbers, and words to show your thinking. Now try to figure out how many toes you have without looking. How did you figure it out? Record your answer with pictures, numbers, and words. So if we all have 2 feet, how many toes do we all have? So it's kind of like a challenge problem. If we each have 2 feet, how many toes do we all have? And it says, now try to figure out how many toes you have at the table without looking. How did you figure it out? Record your answer with pictures, numbers, and words. So after you've figured out how many feet there are, figure out how many toes there are. So if we have 2 feet, but how many toes do we have? Think about that to help you solve your math problem for today. So for content, and like I said, this is new information. It says Virginia's first people. Look at the picture of the village in the packet. Read question 1, then answer the question on paper or out loud to your parents. Read question 2. Tell a parent, family, or family member a couple of questions you have from looking at the picture. You can write the questions on a paper if you like. So we are going to look at the picture of the village. Okay. So look at the picture of that village. Just take it in for a second. Look at everything that you see. Question number 1 says, what do you see in the picture? So you can either explain that to a family member out loud, or you can write down what you see in the picture on a piece of paper. If you're writing it down, make sure you take your time, write full sentences, and think about your capitalization and punctuation. Is this a picture from the past or the present? How do you know? So remember, we've said that the past is long ago and the present is what's going on today. So do you think this picture is from the past or the present? And then explain, how do you know? And you can do this out loud to a family member, or you can write it down. Look at all the detail in the picture. Does it look like this is going on today or in the past? Question number 2 says, this is a painting of Virginia long ago. So it kind of gives you that answer. This is a painting of Virginia long ago. What questions can you think of about this picture? Remember, lots of questions start with who, what, when, where, why, how, did, and is. So, if you guessed that this is from the past, you're correct. And then it says, what questions can you think of about this picture? Remember, lots of questions start with who, what, when, where, why, how, did, and is. So come up with some questions about this picture that you can either say out loud to a family member or write down on a piece of paper. Do our questions end with a period? No, they end with a question mark. So if you're writing this down, make sure that you're using the correct punctuation. So it said, read question 1, then answer the question on paper or out loud to your parents. We did that. Read question 2, tell a parent or family member a couple of questions you have from looking at the picture. You can write the questions on paper if you like. Perfect, so that's what we did. Next says, read pages 36 through 39 about Virginia's first people. Then we're going to fold a piece of paper in half and draw a line down the middle. Then we're going to write Virginia 400 years ago on the left side and Virginia today on the right side. So we're going to go to that page that it said. Okay, perfect. So I still got my screen shared, so I'm going to read and you can follow along. After I read it to you, you can try and read to yourself if you'd like. This says, 400 years ago. The story of the past is called history. Many different people and events helped shape Virginia's history. Virginia's story is very special. The story of the Commonwealth of Virginia began over 400 years ago. Life was very different in the past. Back then, the land was not called Virginia. It was home to thousands of American Indians. What was life like back then? Here's a picture, and the caption says, this piece of land on the York River was once home to a man called Powhatan and his people. He was the chief of more than 30 Indian tribes. So we've talked about Chief Powhatan. Think about when we've talked about him before. On the next page, this caption says, these drawings were made over 400 years ago. Do men dress this way today? How are these homes different from the homes we live in today? So do men dress like this today? And how are these homes different than the ones that we live in today? Think about that. Imagine many towns like this one spread out along the edges of Virginia's rivers. The First Nations. The Indians who lived in the place between the James and York rivers were called the Powhatan Indians. About 30 different tribes made up this Indian nation. Next page says Virginia's first people. So this is in North America, right around where we are. The Powhatan Indians have lived on the banks of Virginia's rivers for thousands of years. They built cozy homes in both small villages and big towns. The Powhatan Indians were one of the biggest nations, but there were many other American Indian tribes too. Powhatan men hunted and fished. They also spent a lot of time practicing ways to protect their families. Powhatan men and women sometimes decorated their skin with colorful paint and designs. That's what that caption says. So she's decorated her skin with different paint and designs, just like the caption said. Powhatan life. Powhatan women were busy. They grew crops and cooked stews. They made pots, clothes, and tools. Their children laughed and played games just like you. Girls and boys also helped their parents. Children picked fruits and vegetables and collected firewood. Everyone had a job. This is what the inside of a Powhatan longhouse looked like. So right in here, this is what the inside of a Powhatan longhouse looked like. You see how it's almost looks like a hallway. It's got a long, narrow inside. That's why it's called a longhouse. So we've read that, and then the directions say, so get a piece of, stop sharing my screen. Get a piece of paper and fold it in half and draw a line down the middle. So if this was your piece of paper, have it long ways. You're going to fold it in half and draw a line down the middle. It says on the left side, write Virginia 400 years ago. I'm going to put VA for short. Virginia 400 years ago. And then on the right side, we're going to put Virginia today. So what you're going to do, I want you, after we read those pages together from the book, I want you to write some things that you noticed about Virginia 400 years ago. And then I want you to write some things that how Virginia is different today. So if you were going to write American Indians lived in long houses, that would be good for Virginia 400 years ago. And then in Virginia today, you would write what we live in today. And then do the same thing for a couple more points. So you're going to write down some things that you noticed about Virginia 400 years ago, and then how that's different today. Make sure we're using our capitalization, punctuation, and that your sentences are a full thought. It says challenge. So that's what you need to do for content today. But then there's a challenge option. It says use objects from around the house to create a diorama of an American Indian village like the one in the picture. Ask your parents for help gathering materials. So if you have the materials around home, you can use them to try and make a diorama of the picture that we looked at. So of this picture, you can try and make an example of one of these houses using materials around home. That's only if your parent gives you permission and they'll help you with it. You're not just going and doing that on your own. You need to get permission. So that is what we have for day 1 of packet number 4. So once you're done with all those activities, you are done with your work for day 1. Remember, at the end of this week, you're going to be sending me 8 things that you think are your best work for me to look at and give you feedback on. Feedback means to tell you what things look really good and what things maybe we need to practice a little bit. So you guys did a great job. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to let me know. I'm here to help you, and I'm excited for our Zoom on Tuesday. It'll be very fun. So I'll see you then. Have a great day.